All right. Sorry for the delay, guys. We'll go ahead and get started. We're going to be incredibly comfortable in here, it looks like. So as we jump in, there's going to be a intro video on YouTube for you guys. Would you guys mind, whoever's back there, just lowering that shade a little bit? The nice reflection is completely blinding me even more than I already am. We're not going to cover the syllabus too much today, but I do have a couple of housekeeping things to go over. First off, my name's Andrew Sartorius. I am this semester an adjunct. I'm normally an assistant professor of criminal justice and political science. I'm also a practicing attorney, so I work full-time for the Missouri State Public Defender. I represent people who can't afford attorneys in criminal cases, and then I do this part-time. Because of that, if you ever want to chat with me or anything, please make an appointment. Just shoot me a text or an email. On Canvas, if it's not up there yet, don't worry about it, it's fine. On Canvas, if it's not up there yet, I'll have my cell phone number, but you can always message me through the app, all right? There are two sections of this class. Your schedule should say PSC 203-01. This is the in-person session. There's also a -9D. Because I'm teaching two identical sessions in the same class, I'm recording all of the lectures and everything. And really quick, let me make sure that as I'm recording this, it's actually picking up my voice. And it's not, so good thing I checked. That's much better. All right. So as I was saying, there's two identical sections to this. Because of that, I'm going to record it. This is a benefit to you guys because all of our lectures will be on YouTube for you as well. I will link those in each of the modules. Our class is going to kind of take this approach. Each week there's going to be a reading. I will lecture on different topics. I love in-class participation, so the more you guys come prepared to talk, the less I talk, right? The good thing is that I'm not going to test you over what you guys say, so that means less content will be covered. You guys will have less things you need to know for the exams, right? So please read ahead of time. Be ready to go when we hit the ground, and we'll go through this quickly. This is American government, and before we jump into this, I want to give everybody a quick way out. If you can read this, you get an automatic A. How many people can read what it says on this line right here? Anybody?
I want to say it's Konnichiwa or something.
It does not. So, welcome to American government. We will jump into that in just a second. I want to start off this semester by talking about why we have government. Today, our main goal is to answer why we study American government and why we have a government in general. So, real quick, second housekeeping thing I should have mentioned. I have an awesome condition called albinism, awesome white hair, not so great vision. Because of that, I'm not going to see you guys raise your hands. So if you've got any questions for me or anything like that, you just have to shout them out. Should be more fun that way because, like I said, I like just having a normal conversation. So this sentence actually says, this phrase says, just kidding. I do not speak Japanese either, don't worry. But I wanted to put this in here to illustrate a point. If you cannot read the language, you must trust the translator, the label, or the person claiming authority. And when we talk about why we study government, that's my big goal here. This trick is possible. The reason I'm able to deceive you all with what that says is because, one second, let me fix this because it needs to. Okay, so yeah, this just doesn't work right. Okay, we'll figure that out later. The reason this trick is possible is because you guys have to be able to understand the language yourself. If you couldn't read the language, you have to trust what somebody tells you about it. You have to be completely reliant on someone else. Either the speaker, the translator, or the context, the claimed reward, or something else. If we go back to the phrase, for example, I just told you I don't speak Japanese,
This is what AI told me this means. I have absolutely no idea if it's right or wrong, right? ChatGPT could be lying to me. And when it comes to government, that's kind of the same thing. Missouri did a very similar thing recently. I'm not going to get into whether or not you think abortion is right or wrong, but in 2024, the Missouri voters did something called an initiative petition, and they legalized abortion. They created a constitutional amendment under a provision basically saying guaranteeing the right to reproductive freedom. The Missouri legislature didn't like that. So in 2025, they created a constitutional amendment called guaranteeing the right to reproductive freedom. And the ballot description was exactly the same, only it would make most abortions illegal. The thing about this is that this would have been a big problem. Luckily, the courts intervened, and what we're going to see in November has more fair language. But when we have things like this, voters can often be deceived. And if you guys think about the media you consume and everything, there's lots of different claims out there, from this group is completely right to this group is completely wrong. Where that exists is probably somewhere in between. Let me make sure I covered everything on this. If you want to read the language for yourself, I encourage it. 2025 it's a House Joint Resolution 73. And like I said, the voters are going to face that in November. The same numbers can name different measures. So both of these were on the ballot as Amendment 3. They just do very different things. When it comes to government, there's also a language. The things that you guys are going to hear as we talk about government sound nuanced. They sound like terms of art. They frequently aren't as confusing as you think they might be, but learning that language is important. From amendments to resolutions to initiatives, jurisdiction, appropriations, and vetoes. If someone else defines every term for you, that person can shape what you believe happened. And saying that down for a second, one thing that shocks my students most of the time is, if we have time in here, I'll have you guys watch a documentary called The Social Dilemma. And the first time I had students watch this, they said that is completely impossible. That'll never happen. Has anybody seen the documentary Social Dilemma? Nope. In it, a kid basically gets hoodwinked by a political group. And it's not really his beliefs, but he goes down the feed on like Facebook or something and ends up going to like a rally, getting arrested, stuff like that in the very end of the thing. And people say this is impossible. Like, people don't actually react that way. However, has anybody heard of Pizzagate? During Trump's first campaign, it was a group called QAnon. And QAnon believed that there was dark actors within the government they called the deep state. And the deep state were using children to stay alive forever. And these children were housed in a facility under a pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C. So this dude comes to the pizza restaurant armed to the teeth, ready to rescue all these children. And guess what? There's not even a basement to this place. So my goal with this class is to give you guys the tools you need to distinguish fact from fiction. Most of you, if we go around the room, probably are not political science majors. Some of you maybe want to go into law someday, but I would venture a guess that most of you are here because some advisor told you you had to do it, and the non-8 a.m. sessions were full. Am I right? No? Okay. If you want to go into this, there are classes that will dive far deeper into civil rights and liberties, constitutional law. My goal here is to teach you guys the way the systems work, so that when somebody makes some sort of bold claim, you know enough to say, no, that's not really how it is. Or when your crazy uncle is spouting off nonsense at the dinner table, you're able to A, ignore it, or B, if you really feel like the fight over Thanksgiving, tell them why they're wrong. More importantly, even though I don't think I have any senators or representatives in this room, each and every one of you can be involved in politics. It's a really low threshold. You basically just have to have a pulse. And so if there's something that you care about, if there's something that you think, wow, the legislature can do something about that, or government should do Y about this, you have the ability to interact with government to try and shape those policies right here today. And so my hope for this class is that, one, you can't be hoodwinked by crazy nonsense, but two, if you want, you're ready to engage in the process. Is every single seat in this room full? Do we have we have one more chair. I will see about getting us a bigger room for Wednesday. All right, so as we've gone over this, why we study government component, does anybody have any questions? I had one more slide. American government also matters a lot outside of politics. I'm sorry, out of political science. Government travels into ordinary life all the time. How many people have jobs? Nobody has jobs? Oh, I see your hand, good. I can't see hands, so just be like, I've got a job. Where do you guys work? Shout out some answers. Walmart? Schnucks? Where? The bank, which one? Okay, it's a good bank. From the wages you get paid to the licensing you require, to certain workplace rules, the government has lots to say about that. You guys, if you're working, you all make money, you pay taxes. There's loans are regulated by the government, public benefits, contracts, and consumer protections all have their feet in government policies. When we talk about rights, and we'll talk later about how rights and civil liberties are different. So some of these things that we think of as rights, like speech, privacy, are civil liberties. Some of these things like voting, due process, and equal protection, well, equal protections both, but are civil rights. And then daily systems. Here at Lincoln University, this is a state institution. We are funded in large part by the Missouri legislature. You all got here on roads. Luckily, they've repaved some of them. It was treacherous out there a couple of months ago. House care, housing policy, policing, and public utilities. All these things are government. It would be impossible for us to basically interact in the way that we do right now without government. And I want to talk about how we got here for just one moment. Way back when, thousands of years ago, people were hunter-gatherers. Basically, we would live in little family groups called tribes, and we'd walk around looking for things to eat or to kill to eat, right? So we'd either gather berries and stuff or kill bison or cows or whatever. The thing about that is, if all you're doing all the time is walking around looking for things to eat, you don't have time to do things like music or art or roads. Then this great innovation called farming came along. And all of a sudden, rather than having to go look for our food all the time, we could sit down and plant a field, and so much time later, as long as we took care of it, up would sprout food that we could eat. It didn't completely eliminate hunting and gathering. We still hunt today. But it gave us something to be stable around. Along with this comes a whole bunch of time. Because if you're not going from meal to meal, you now have the ability to do things like paint or sculpt or build roads so that it's easier to walk from place to place. And when this happens, we can start organizing into bigger communities. That little family unit that would just take care of one another, called a tribe, could expand into a village. But when we have more people living together, we have to decide who's going to do what. How's it going to be fair? I am running really late today. One thing I usually like doing, and we don't have the time or space for it, is I like you guys to get together and make your own society and decide who's going to do what in your little community. We're maybe going to do that later this week if I can get some more space. Today, probably not, sorry. But every semester, I have students who organize themselves in different ways. I have some students who focus all their attention on defense. I don't give you any constraints to this hypothetical. You can do whatever you want with it. And it's interesting to me when I have the groups of people that are like, our number one threat is people invading our territory. I'm like, all right, okay, whatever you want. Some students focus all their attention on shelter or food. But how we set this up is basically related to this idea of a social contract. In a social contract, we give up certain of our freedoms in exchange for the benefits of living in a society. The benefits of living in a society are things like getting to travel on a road, or getting to not have to worry about who's defending us when you're sitting here in American government class, or having the right to a fair trial. But because of that, because we have the electricity and the buildings and all of those things, we also don't get to do whatever we wanted to do. When we lived in the hunter-gatherer groups, if we were hungry, we could just go out and steal something and eat. If we didn't like the person next to us, we could kill them. No big deal, right? When we live in a society, we give up those freedoms. We can't just go do whatever we want all the time. There are rules and laws, but the trade-off for that is all the safety and security that comes with living in a society. How we set this up is going to be what we talk about next. Today, we're going to start talking about what this civic literacy starts with. And there are 4 main questions we need to ask. Who has authority to act? Who gets to make those rules? Who gets to say, you can't go take your neighbor's house if you want your neighbor's house? What processes do they use? Are we going to do this because the king says so? Or are we going to do this in some other way? What changed and what did not, basically from that hunter-gatherer time to today? And number 4, who's asking you to interpret the questions that we're going through? This slide should have been earlier. We're going to skip it. So when we look at government, the first thing we want to do is always ask the question of who acted, by what authority, and through which process. There we go. Never mind. That was also supposed to be earlier. We did that. Okay, so when we talk about government and politics, these 2 things are very different things. So and I was building up to this and then lost my train of thought, so I apologize. We're back on the right track. When we look at government and politics, these are 2 very different things. The government is going to be the way that we make these things happen. So these are the institutions and offices authorized to make and implement binding collective decisions. When we talk about Lincoln University, it is the government. When you're in this class, it's kind of like the government, right? But politics is going to be the conflict, the bargaining, the rules, the participation, and power surrounding collective decisions. When we think about politicians, they often are the people who have power, and so the lines get kind of blurred, but sometimes they're not. For example, has anybody heard of the Central Committee? Cole County, for example, has the Cole County Central Republican Committee, the Central Democrat Committee. They're going to decide who gets to run for which office. In a presidential election, we get really excited about the DNC and the RNC, the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention. That's when they're going to nominate a presidential candidate. There is a lot of power there, but does this person actually have, all right, good, this is still running. I always have to check it because sometimes it overheats and freaks out on me. Does that group actually have political power? Have we as a society said that they get to decide for us what we get to do? No. They have immense power because they're going to choose the people that are put into the positions that are actually part of the government. I want you to think about this. If we decide as a group that we want to do something, we want to make something illegal, it's not going to be us as the group who enforce that. That would be called vigilantism. It's not right? If you decide that you don't like your person in your next dorm, you can't go, drag them out of the building. But if we as a group decide that this isn't something we're going to tolerate, we can make a law, we can make it illegal, but the people who actually enforce that law are going to be the police. They're the ones that are going to go take the person out of their dorm room or arrest somebody. So the politics and the government are different things. Go away. Nobody asked for you. I can't show you my presenter notes because if I do that, then you'll know what's coming early. There we go. We talked about shared benefits a little bit. When we have shared benefits, it doesn't guarantee coordinated action. So a public good is a shared benefit from which people are difficult to exclude. The roads, for example, it's a public good. It doesn't benefit one person any more than it benefits somebody else. Arguably, it benefits you all who can drive more than it benefits me, but I ride a bike, so we're cool. Collective action problem. Individuals' reasonable choices can block a shared result. And then there's the concept of a free rider. Someone benefits while avoiding a fair share of the cost. Let's look at an example that hopefully resonates more with you guys. Let me pause right here and ask you guys, what year are you all? Just shout out your answers.
Sophomore.
Freshmen? So mostly freshmen. The very first class ever?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's a lot of responsibility. Hopefully I'll do okay. Let me know later if you hate this, okay? I will note, to apologize for myself, I've got a little bit of a cold going on, so it'll be better next time. Good thing I don't have any trials this week. All right. This is going to be a little bit difficult for you guys. Usually I have some upperclassmen who have all kinds of complaints. But you guys have been living in the dorms for probably a whole, 36 hours, right? 72? 3 days, give or take. What do you love about the dorm? You don't what? Congratulations, that's awesome. You are missing an experience, let me tell you.
I've been in the dorm, so I have some complaints, some good, some bad. So.
Sweet, we'll come back to you in 1 second. I want to get the positives out first. Anybody over here have a positive? All right, what's your biggest complaint about the dorm?
My biggest complaint is whenever we come from back home, the dorm was always wet.
Yeah.
Somebody always tore up the elevator. Somebody always broke some type of window because they was not handling them very well. So that was the biggest complaint. And also, my other biggest complaint was the popcorn. I know people love popcorn, but when you sleep, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden you hear the fire alarm go off because somebody burnt their popcorn. It kind of like, why are you cooking popcorn at 3 o'clock in the morning?
I mean, I don't know when you like to eat your popcorn, but that sounds good to me. How about you guys? Anybody else have a big complaint about the dorms? My number one complaint is usually the laundry. But last semester, apparently they did a lot of stuff to fix that. And so I used to always use that as an example. So you guys aren't helping me find good new examples here. Let me know in a couple of weeks once you guys have gotten to settle in. So if we look at 3 different things that maybe the university was looking at doing, accessible sidewalks and lighting, additional parking, or an evening shuttle service. Does anybody use the shuttle service? Have you guys heard about that at all? Yeah, it's pretty awesome actually. What does it take you guys to Schnucks, Walmart, stuff like that?
Target, Walmart, and the mall.
Okay, that's pretty good then. Because if you wanted to take the bus, it would take you 3.5 days. If we pick one of these.
I take the bus all the time. It don't take that long.
I used to. That's why I got a bike. It would take me 2 hours to get home. And I lived 2 miles away, so I just walked it all the time. All right, so if we look at these 3 things, does anybody disagree that these would have benefits for everybody? One thing that's really interesting is they call this the curb cut anomaly. They put curb cuts in. Does anybody know what a curb cut is? It's those little ramp things. So you'll be walking and you get to the end of a sidewalk, and rather than having a step down, there's like a ramp thing, and they're put in for wheelchairs. But it turns out that everybody loves them. Like, nobody really thought normal people would be all about this, but as it turns out, everybody uses them. When's the last time you guys saw a curb cut and you're like, nope, I'm going around this? Similar with ramps, elevators, stuff like that. So if we had accessible sidewalks and better lighting on campus, that'd be good for everybody, right? Could you imagine getting to walk up Dawson there instead of like the 400 flights of stairs? There was a better way. So another thing, additional parking. Does everybody have cars on campus? Yeah. Where do you have to park? You park on Dawson?
Yeah, I'm like in the Dawson.
Oh, okay. So you've actually got a decent spot. I know people that've got spots and they're like, yeah, I have to walk like 15 minutes to get to my car. It's like, geez, you might as well have just not brought your car. If we had additional parking lots or like a parking garage that connected nicely to campus, that'd be good for everybody. Similarly, what time does the shuttle stop running?
I think it's probably about 10 or 10, 9 or 10 because they don't have to go with depending on the time the store closed.
Yeah.
So if Walmart closes at 11, they probably start.
Oh, my friend, Walmart never closes.
Oh no, they do.
It's always open.
No, look, they if you look at Walmart.com, they literally tell you that from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. They start doing that when COVID hit. That's when all the stores started shutting down early. So now Walmart closes at 11 o'clock p.m.
I think it depends on which one. There's several. Who worked at Walmart? It doesn't matter. We'll come back to that later. If we had the evening shuttle service, if it were to, I mean, you guys aren't 21, so you should not be drinking, but we all know what freshmen do, slash undergrads in general, right? Trust me, it gets worse when you get into law school. And then they have a saying that once you pass the bar, you never pass up another one. So, but can you imagine if the shuttle ran 24 hours a day and you could go out to your favorite drinking establishment and get a beer and not have to worry about how you're getting back? Pretty cool thing. Benefit for everybody. But wanting a benefit is not the same as actually producing it. If everybody benefits from an improvement, will voluntary individual action reliably pay for and deliver it? If we said we were going to do one of these things, or maybe we say something else that, like, we're going to forbid the popping of popcorn after midnight, is everybody going to listen to that rule? No. And even though it's arguably better for everybody, there's going to be people who say, nope, I like to eat popcorn at 4 a.m. Or I hate accessible things. I don't want to use a curb cut. It's good for my knees to have to step down. Yeah, we're not going to respond in writing. That's too much work. So collective action, when we have these things that are going to benefit everybody, it needs authority and implementation. There are times when this isn't necessarily the case, right? But frequently what we have is that each person prefers that someone else bear the cost. An authorized institution can collect resources and make a binding decision and implement it. If we were to say the cost of the shuttle is going to be $10 a student, how many of you want to fork over $10? Or are you guys sitting here thinking like, well, these two students look like they've got a little bit extra money. How about they each pay $100 and then nobody has to pay for it, right? It's the same kind of thing with the government. We all kind of fight about who's going to have to bear what burden of the cost. The rich always say, well, it should be an even share. The less rich individuals frequently say, eat the rich, right? Jeff Bezos can probably pay for everybody's college and still have tons of trillions of dollars left over. That's not an authoritative statement. I don't really know the math on that, so I like joking quite a bit. Don't take that to the bank. But this becomes the problem with government. Government is a system designed to pursue general order and welfare. So what is order? It's predictable rules, safety, conflict management, and an enforcement and dispute resolution system. I am very sorry. Do you want why don't you grab one of these chairs up here? Because we're reaching the end, so I don't have a table for you, but here's a seat. I don't want you on the ground. That's all right. You do what you want, but like I said, we'll try and get a better space for next class. So what is general welfare? General welfare is shared infrastructure, public health and education, conditions people cannot reliably provide alone. How many people here can build a road? I can build a trail. It would take me like a month and a half, when it would take somebody who knew what they were doing like 15 minutes. But there's no way I can build a road.
Are you saying in real life or on a game?
No, yes, I'm saying in real life.
Oh, real life.
Like in real life, I have built trails before when I was in Boy Scouts, a long time ago.
Sorry.
You're fine. So capacity creates a second question. So if government's going to provide the order and basically establish the framework we're going to operate in, and it's going to provide for the general welfare, what is the second question of capacity? This is who controls the power used to solve the shared problem. This course is going to study both sides of this. Why collective authority is useful and how institutions constrain, contest, and legitimize it. If we think of the ways we could set things up, if we were to be living in some sort of business empire, there's dystopian shows where the corporations control everything, then it could be something like the board of directors gets to decide all your fates. And at times, that's how the United States has been. We had indentured servitude. We had the, cotton mills and stuff where you would have tons and tons of people working, living on whatever the corporation decided to give them in corporation houses where they basically charged rent. And you would maybe make money after, 120 years. Are you in here? Oh, well. Are you in American government?
No.
Oh, sorry, Mel. I couldn't see who you were. Yep, I'll be out here. I'll be out soon. They frequently book Mel and I in the same room, and then he likes to come in early to put his notes on, so that's another good reason to move. The course studies both sides. All right. So civil literacy means translating authority, process, and consequences for yourself. As we go through this sort of stuff, I want you guys to be able to look at situations and say, all right, where's the authority? What's going on here? So there's two big distinctions. And I want to leave you with this because I want to leave this a little bit early just because I feel pretty terrible at the moment with this cold. And I want to leave room for any questions or anybody who wants to come up and talk afterwards. So there's two big distinctions. I want you guys to be able to separate the things that we want, the common good, from the method in which we achieve it. The government tries to make it fair for us to get the things we want. If we look at one last example to illustrate this, if we look at what Andrew wants out of this semester, I want people who are going to come in and pretty much do my work for me, right? I want you guys to have read your books and come in with questions and we talk about things. And so basically this is a big discussion. And what do I have to do? I just have to show up and moderate, right? If this side wants to fight one way and this side wants to fight the other way, and everybody is so excited to talk, that's awesome for me. That's what I dream about as a professor. You guys, on the other hand, with an 8 a.m. class, want to come in, and you'd probably love it if I had a big spread of Danish and coffee, and everybody just kind of got to chill out and listen to music for 50 minutes, right? There's got to be some sort of medium between here. The fact that we disagree on what our values are or what we want out of something doesn't mean we can't get what we need, and doesn't mean there's not some happy place in the middle. One of the things that's fascinating about government is that nobody ever thought that people would agree on what the best solution forward would be. It's just designed to try and find the best compromise position. So with that, we've been kind of all over the place, but I want to open it up if anybody has any questions. I've heard there's been some problems getting the book. Was anybody able to get the book online?
I gotta go to Punch A and find out why I can't use my Punch A to get the
Okay.
books.
I will see if any of the other faculty members, like I said, I teach like this class. Sometimes I teach some upper division classes, but I'm not on campus all the time. I don't do advising or anything like that. And so I don't know how you guys go about logging into that system, but I will try and find out for you all and present that on Wednesday. So while Canvas is going to tell you you need to read chapter 1, if you can do it, fantastic. If you don't, not a big deal. 2, there's going to be from time to time different things to check where you're at. Everything here in my classes is going to be designed to help you guys get good grades. If I could just have you come listen to my crazy lectures and give you an A, fantastic. I'd love it. Unfortunately, the university wants me to prove that you know what you're doing or that I've taught you. And so there have to be exams and stuff like that. I try to be as fair as I can with this stuff. It says it in the intro video, but since that's not up yet, I will also go over that I don't really have tolerance for late work. If you have some sort of emergency come up, if you have some problem and you think it's going to be late, best to call me ahead of time. I very freely give out extensions and everything like that. But if you just don't turn it in for 3 weeks, I'm probably going to give you a 0. Are you in this class? Not yet. This will be criminal justice in about 15 minutes. No problem. If you call me and your car died or you have a flat tire, no problem. Second, college is a little different than high school. You guys have attendance expectations. I think it's like 6 classes. And if you miss 6 classes, you can technically be dropped from the class. I'm pretty lenient about that. I've never filed for anybody to be dropped from my class in the 6 years I've been teaching. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a first time. If you never show up again after today, you're probably not going to pass. But if you have something come up, shoot me a text, shoot me a message on Canvas, make sure you watch the video. I don't really care. It's going to be hard for you to earn participation points if you're not here. But I'm not going to, penalize you guys if you're sick and stay home. My exams are open book and open note. One of the things about having a visual impairment is I realized pretty early on I'm not going to be able to ferret out cheating. If you're sitting in the back looking at your phone as well as taking the test, I probably won't see that. And so I don't try. Consequently, I don't really ask you many easy questions that are like multiple choice or true false. I tend to ask essay questions. I will tell you that I feel like what distinguishes high school graduates from college graduates is the ability to think critically. I feel like that is something that is not taught very often in high schools today. And what do I mean by thinking critically? I mean that I might ask you a question to which there is not a right answer. Frequently, the first thing they teach you if you should decide to go to law school is the right answer is always it depends. That'll get you a D. The best answer is it depends, and then on what? You guys are not going to agree with me on everything. In fact, I hope frequently you disagree with me. And that's okay. Because when we talk about things like government, there's lots of different viewpoints. Some of you are probably pissed off that I talked about Amendment 3 to begin the class. Some of you probably are pissed off that the legislature is trying to play tricks with Amendment 3. When we are talking about this stuff, one, I want you to be respectful, right? We're all adults in here, so we can have good conversations without insulting the person. We can attack the issue, we don't need to attack the people. But second, if you disagree with me, that's okay. I don't care about whether you say, when we get to the great compromise. I don't care whether you say that's a good idea or a bad idea. I care about how you justify your position. That's how I'm going to grade you. And so as long as you can tell me why you think a certain way, you're going to do fantastic in here. So I want to be clear that, are you here for criminal justice? All right, it's in like 15 minutes. So this is American government. So if you could step to the hall, and that class will begin shortly. Sweet, thanks. My apologies. Let me regain my train of thought. Yeah, so as long as you guys are giving me the meat and potatoes of things, that's what's important. But also that's the sort of thing that might be difficult for you starting out, because the way that education has the trend that education has been going towards is, and tell me if I'm wrong, they teach you guys for the test, and they want you to get the answer a certain way. I could care less how you arrive at your conclusion, as long as you can tell me this is what supports me. Does that make sense? Sweet. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions, particularly housekeeping questions, before we adjourn for the day? All right, we're going to be back here unless I'll send you a message on Canvas if I get other space, but otherwise we'll be here Wednesday at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
I just look on Canvas. I don't see your class on there.
I will take a look at that too.